Hey lovelies, I'm Sarah Scott interviewing the amazing pole community to help you train smart and dance more. We're on to the 10th episode of the Off the Pole podcast, and I'm so excited about my guest today, who is none other than Roz The Diva. She calls pole dancing her gateway drug to the fitness industry and teaches, in her words, obnoxiously loud classes at Body Pole, IncrediPOLE, and trains clients at Brooklyn Fit Lab and Complete Body, all in New York City. She's a talented performer, instructor, and creator of Dangerous Curves, a celebration of plus-size pole dancers. We talk about adapting classes to truly suit all body types, body confidence, and her epic journey so far. Welcome, Roz. Thank you for doing my Off the Pole podcast, giving up some of your... What time is it there? It's afternoon here.
It's 11:30 here.
11:30 in the AMs. Okay, so you haven't quite started your day yet. Are you a late starter or a morning person?
I'm a late starter, actually, because I usually, when I teach classes, they're in the evenings, and we actually have a snowstorm here today. So I was going to have one or two afternoon clients, but it's going to be a little drama getting there.
Yeah.
So
we've had that too in the UK, which never happens. We've had like the beast from the east or something, snowstorms. We've been digging our cars out. We can't cope at all when it snows, and everyone laughs at us, but it's nice to have a day off, so might as well take advantage while if you're snowed in.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to attempt to get some work done, finish my taxes.
Yeah.
Which is
fun. Everyone loves to do their taxes. I'm always really pumped to do mine. So yeah. But I wanted to get you on to talk to you about a couple of things. One of them being Dangerous Curves, your pole dance competition that you do. And just to tell us a little bit about it, my Off the Pole group, I posted in there that I was interviewing you, and they're very excited as well. So I've got a couple of questions from them. But yeah, I just thought I could start off with that and let us know a little bit about what Dangerous Curves is all about.
That sounds awesome. So Dangerous Curves, it's a plus-size pole dancing competition. And to my knowledge, it was the first one that existed. Definitely the first one in the States. And I started in August of 2012. And I started because although I had the most amazingly supportive pole fan possible, I was just tired of being the only one who looked like me on stage. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, now let's see if anybody else wants to come and like hang out with me. And yeah, they did. So fast forward, so far Dangerous Curves has done 10 events in total. Wow. And like 7 big competitions. Maybe even a few. I think, somewhere around there.
Enough that it's so many that you're losing count. So quite a few.
Yeah. And so what I actually did was I ended up giving it to someone else, to Tasha Ostrander, and because she's a previous champion. And so she actually really takes the realms of everything. I'm kind of like a fun aunt who can come in, smile, do all the fun shit, and then leave. Yeah. And it's not that I didn't like it. I just, I was exhausted, as I'm sure you know event planning is. And I didn't have the time to devote to the brand to really build it up as big as it could have been, because I was also trying to build up my own shit.
Because you teach it like three or 4 different venues, like regularly, plus you teach workshops, plus you do performances, plus all your like you've done stunts for programs that I've seen. I was looking through your bio, and you're like a stunt woman for all these things. So yeah, you've got a pretty hectic schedule.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm definitely like, Dangerous Curves is always gonna have a place in my heart. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm a little bit farther along in my career than I was a few years ago, and I understand smart business moves versus emotional business moves, Dangerous Curves just isn't as smart business-wise as it used to be for me. Mm-hmm. And smart business-wise in terms of looking at the time, the energy, and the money that it takes to put into this. Mm. And comparing that with the output. And, the truth is, I can do other events and other things where I make more money and it takes way less time. So So that's also why I was like, you know what? Let me not hold on to this and screw it up and not even screw it up, but let me not just have this and hold on to it but not
For the
do
sake of
anything.
it. Yeah, like if it's got further to go and you've got further to go in other things, then let someone who can obviously put their full energy into that when you can put your full energy into other things. I mean, I think it's nice if you see a gap in the market, if you can create something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to hold on to that. Like you saw a gap, you made it, and then you can be like, now you people run with it. And then I can just, as I say, be that fun aunt to come in and take advantage of it, which is probably the best way, I think.
Yeah.
What made you start in this industry? I know you're a kind of fitness and pole, so there's a bit of a crossover, but what kind of drew you to this industry in the first place?
Actually, pole dancing was my gateway drug into doing fitness full time. So I've been poling for 10 years now. Oh my gosh, almost 10 and a half years. That's crazy.
I'm with you. We started about the same time.
Yep. Once you hit double digits in pole, first of all, the fact that either one of us still have shoulders is amazing.
Yay.
Right? And then we have hips and our sanity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Double win.
Yeah, definitely double win. So I started pole, like I said, about 10 years ago, and I'm in New York City. And I just took it because it was a class on the schedule at my gym. And it just looked like it was fun because it had dance in the title. And I really like to dance because I have a Beyonce complex.
Yeah, well, and it's not a bad one to have.
Yep. So I took it, and it was the absolute hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I was like, well, I've pretty much failed at everything I tried during that first class. But I never had a better time failing in my life.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people that only took one class, and I've never looked back. And then I started teaching about 7 years ago. And teaching is one of the best things to happen to me even outside the scope of just pole dancing. And it started out just like as a hobby and a side hustle. And then, long story short, the universe was like, listen, go do fitness full time. You really like it, go do it. And I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not logical. My parents spent God knows how much money and time to send me to really good schools, and I worked really hard in school. No one works hard in school to be a pole dancing instructor. At least that's what I thought at the time. So I had so much guilt over taking my education and doing this instead. But I've largely made peace with that now. And I've been doing fitness full time. Like, this is my only means of income for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And it's worked out that each year I've made more than I made the previous year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think a big reason with that is because I didn't rely on just pole dancing or just performing to get me through. I knew, like, there's just no way, there's no studio that could give me full-time teaching or what I need that I'd be able to do that. Mm. So I'm glad that I had the foresight early to branch out into different areas like group fitness. I work with TRX and I love it. I do some flexibility work, largely inspired by pole. And I'm turning into a giant meathead now. So I'm getting really
the weights and stuff like deadlifts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I just want to lift the heaviest things I can find.
It's addictive as well.
Oh, so addictive. So I really have to thank pole because it was the catalyst for me also between just going to the gym, but then really doing things that helped change me physically in positive ways.
Yep.
And also pole got me to do things. Pole makes you brave, and it got me to do things that I never in my lifetime thought I could do. Like basically make up my own play school career. And
it's all the little challenges. Like, it's every time you're going to a pole class, you're overcoming a little challenge. and you're focusing on your body doing something rather than looking a certain way, then you're just constantly positively reinforcing yourself that you can overcome problems. And I think that leaks out into all of the pole dancers' lives, and that's why everyone ends up being like really independent, really strong, really, you know, self-confident, and it's just such a positive impact. And it's so funny that everyone thinks it's going to be completely the opposite and like demeaning to women, and you know, there's going to be loads of girls in bikinis and everyone's going to be really self-conscious, but it's like actually completely the opposite. But it's our like dirty little secret that that's what the industry does.
Yeah, and you know, you brought up a very, very important point for me, is that you know, people look at me and they hear the way I speak and they see my crazy bubbly personality, and they assume that all of that means that I'm super, super confident in the way I look. And especially because I spend so much time talking about you know, looking different and being significantly heavier than a lot of other teachers and a lot of other pole dancers, that I'm fine with me. But the truth is that I'm not. And one reason why pole became so personal to me is because it was one of the first things I did that helped me actually start to lose weight, number one, and to see that my body can do cool things. And so going to the gym isn't just about losing weight. Like, that's still one of my goals, but it's not, it doesn't keep me awake at night the way that it used to.
It's like a secondary thing to using your body for something healthy and fun and challenging. And then if you lose weight as you're becoming more healthy, then that's a big bonus. But yeah, people putting too much emphasis on the weight loss, I think then it just goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's not long term.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm still like, you know, I'm still definitely up and down, and I have some demons I'm trying to fight with my weight more mentally than anything else. But pole has actually helped me start to develop a healthier relationship and to heal some of those really terrible things that I used to say about myself. And even though I feel like I'm really just beginning to heal, the fact that I'm even considering healing and making changes is extraordinary. And pole, I will forever be thankful for pole because of that.
Did you feel like you had a lot of obstacles in, because everyone, when they first go to pole class, I think they look at those around them and they compare themselves to others. That's a really big part of kind of the journey in pole, is kind of finding your own way. Like, were there any specific obstacles you found like coming into class and starting your pole journey?
I think the biggest one was my weight. So I know douchebag Americans, we have our own system for everything. So I don't know how many stoner kilograms about 200, 250 pounds is.
Google. We can Google everything.
Exactly.
It's all good. No
Google that. Just go ahead and fix it. But I would say I was averaging between like 80 to 100 pounds more than some of my more slender friends. And in some cases, I was double the size as other people in class. And so when my friends are getting things, let's say after like 3 or 4 months, it would take me 2 or 3 years. And that timeline, and I would get it. And when I got it, it was like, I can't even tell you, well, I can because you pole, the level of like satisfaction and excitement when you get something. But it takes me a whole lot longer to get things, because particularly pole is pretty much all strength training, you know, with some dance and flex in there, of course, but you know, a lot of the more advanced tricks that we're doing, it's strength based. And when you are carrying more weight, your muscles have to have a greater capacity for work, because they've got to be able to support you. So naturally, it's going to take your muscles longer to build, to become strong enough for me to do the same poses as somebody who's smaller. And that just sucks. Like, that just,
damn you, physics.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it's straight physics. But it's just, after a while, it's really hard to keep showing up somewhere knowing that you're going to fail for pretty much everything you try. And the only way that I got through was because my pole fam was amazing.
Mm.
And even though I was the only one who looked like me for years, they didn't let me use my weight as an excuse to not try.
Yeah.
I would try, they would try with me. I would bitch and moan about doing my left side, like everybody bitch and moans about doing the left side. And they're like, "Are you done complaining? Good, it's your turn. Get on
Yeah,
the pole."
exactly. That's what you
Yeah,
need.
exactly. And then afterwards, pole also, it's a very social sport. I think unlike other group fitness classes where, you have your set of weights or your like station and you can get the whole class without having to interact with other people. You can't do that with pole.
No.
Like you're going to be talking, you're going to be spotting just something with other people. And I need that. I really, really like that aspect. So after those classes where I get my ass whooped and I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I'm reconsidering my whole life journey. My friends are like, we're going to go out drinking. Want to join? And I'm like, that's exactly what I need right now.
Yeah.
So it was that really nice balance of like going hard at the gym and then getting donuts.
Yes. The healthy balance. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Because you now teach a workshop for studios, like directed at plus size athletes, so that they can, like from your experiences, now you can kind of pass that information on, because a lot of studios, you may not have had the access to this kind of information or how to adapt things, or because it's a lot of mindset, but there's also a lot of physics. So what does that entail, like when you go into a studio and you're teaching for the plus size athlete?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite workshops to teach, and I'm really excited that every time I go, pretty much every studio I go to now, I almost always do this workshop. I've done it for groups as small as like 3 teachers, if it's like a small home studio, but I've also taught it to like 20 people at once.
Mm.
And it's largely based off of just my experiences. So I spent a good amount of time basically there's stuff that you can do before you get to before class starts, and before clients even walk in the door, to during and after class. And there are things that I think a lot of studios mean well, and they say we're welcoming, we want everyone to come, and they truly do, but there are some small things that really turn off larger athletes. So for example, if you are at a space and you have showers,
Mm-hmm.
and you offer towels to your clients, a standard gym towel does not fit around my body. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't take a shower because the towels are too small, and I'm embarrassed to walk around the locker room in this little ass towel. So I'm not going to come to the gym, because if I have to go to work afterwards or something else, I can't change. It's one thing to go home sweaty, but it's another thing to go out and about and live your best life.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've honestly thought about. And I've still gone to the gym and I've just kind of like dried off really fast, and I've worked
Speed
around
drying.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know there's a lot of people who won't do that. Also, when representation matters, and I can't tell you how ridiculously important that is the biggest reason why people come to my classes. And sometimes they come from 2 and 3 hours away just for a 90-minute class. I'm like, why on earth would you do that? And they're like, you're the only one who looks like me. You're the only instructor who's remotely my size, someone who's also black, someone who they can identify with me physically. Like when people come in, nobody wants to feel alone.
Yeah.
And so when they come to my class, many people don't feel alone. They don't have to explain to another teacher why they're too embarrassed to take off their shirt, or why their boobs, they can't do this move because their boobs are in the way, why their boobs are so damn heavy.
Yep.
And, things that you wouldn't know unless you've experienced it. And so for me, it's second nature, and I'm constantly making modifications physically for students because that's what I've had to do. There are some holds that just like I just won't and can't do because I have too much boob in the way of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then if my legs are over my head, boobs and thighs mean that I'm going to suffocate. So,
which is not a good time. No one wants that, you know?
Oh, no, everyone likes oxygen. It's pretty fun. So, but basically, I talk about things like that and other things in my workshops as well. And I'm always really excited when people request that I do this workshop because it shows to me that they truly care about doing better.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me nervous are the people who don't take the workshop, the instructors who don't, but don't think that they need it. Because you probably do.
Well, there's always, like, from an instructor's point of view, there's always something that you're going to take from learning about a different body type or a different way of teaching. Like, you can't learn enough about the human body. Like, it's literally limitless. And especially if you're learning about other people's experiences, that can only be beneficial as well. So I was going to ask you, like, is it like a class that's getting more popular, and do people request that one? Because I was looking through your workshop list, and that one definitely did stand out as like, this would be so helpful, because when I'm teaching the instructor training that we do, a lot of people say, like, is there a move that you, or is there a time where you wouldn't be able to spot someone? And I think no, I think you could always spot someone, but you do have to be like, you can't always spot everybody the same. It's going to be flexible depending on the person. So it's the ability to adapt to any kind of student, which I think is a big teaching plus.
Absolutely. And, I love that you have the wherewithal to understand that it's not that moves are impossible. They have to be changed. Because if you think about the traditional rules of movement and physics and everything, they were based on traditional looking bodies and traditional dancers. So if you have people who are non-traditional athletes, it makes sense that the rules aren't always going to work for them because they weren't the ones who these, inventors, I don't know what to call them, but like, the keeper of the rules.
The fitness keepers. Yeah,
fitness people. They weren't thinking about people who looked and were built like me to do certain things. So I agree with you.
But I think even when people were making up like fitness, like a plank is a choreographed position. Like, it's someone told us to do a plank in this specific way. But as pole dancers, we actually need to move our bodies in completely different positions than normal fitness classes, because we're going upside down and we're twisting and we're turning. So like, the normal rules don't apply to us already. And then if you add in different body types and flexibility ranges and lifestyles like on top of that, then it could be a huge amount of adaptations just on one position. So being a pole dance instructor is massively challenging, and I don't think you could ever stop learning or get enough information to make it stop being like, oh, I've peaked, I've learned enough, I'm done. I don't need to know anything else.
Like, I think probably one of the things that helped me the most is when I started, when we started pole 10 years ago, pole was not the sport that it is now.
No.
It was like a highly organized hobby, but it is totally different. So the classes that I took, they were at, a big commercial gym. There were like 35, 40 people in a class, and we had 5 poles. So you can imagine, like, literally, I recall we would average 6 or 7 people per pole.
Wow.
And us, that was totally normal. And we would just take turns. And because it was open level, we would have everybody from people who were already teaching to people who just stumbled in the room to, it's different than a studio where people go specifically for a pole class. When it's at a big commercial gym, you have a much wider range of people who are going to come. And so because my first introduction to pole was, everybody's slightly different, still fitting a similar profile, but adapting and also like helping each other out and kind of being a co-teacher unofficially. That's just like how I grew up on a pole. And so it was a treat when I started teaching leveled classes.
Yeah.
So I was like,
oh, you all know the same thing. This is good.
yeah, exactly. But even now, like even in my leveled classes now, they're still loosely structured on an open level, on an like an open level structure. Because, if we're doing, let's say like leg hangs, there are some students who just learned how to invert. And so before we get to leg hangs, like I'm helping them invert, I'm helping other people do leg switches.
Yeah.
In this class. So
because there's variety, like you could be like an intermediate level pole dancer and you could be hugely strong, but then the person next to you is hugely flexible. So between those two people, they could have completely different trick kind of strengths and weaknesses. So every trick you're going to be adapting for them as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have, like, in your own personal pole journey, I suppose, do you have specific goals that you set yourself, or do you just do it to kind of further your teaching and just for enjoyment, or do you have like a lot of structure with your pole training?
I actually don't. So I definitely fell into that trap of teaching as my teaching ramped up, my training all but stopped. If I'm going to be completely honest, of the 10 years I've been in this industry, I was a pole dancer for about 6. And the last 4 years, I might pop into a class here or there, but it hasn't been the regular training like I used to do it twice a week. But that's because I'm okay with that. Because even though me as a pole dancer, my growth has been stunted, as a teacher, it's like teaching took the place of that. And when I tell you I love teaching and I'm obsessed with teaching, I am absolutely 100% obsessed, can't teach enough. And so I feel like I have this finite amount of energy to devote to athletics. And when I was just doing it after work, then I had all this time, this mental space to just focus on me. Cool. And that's when I was making the most gains. That's when I had lost the most weight. And, I was in good physical shape. But then again, when I started teaching, when I had just one class and I still, had a full-time job, I was still keeping up with everything. It was cool. It was great. No problem. And also performing. I love being on stage. It's ridiculous how much I love being on stage. And the only thing that trumps my love of performing is my love of teaching. And so I haven't felt as compelled to keep up with the newest tricks in the last few years because I get just as excited, if not more excited, for my students to go ahead and to rock things and to be awesome. And I'm also, honestly, I'm tired. Sarah, I'm tired. It's 10 years like
we're old for pole dance. In pole dance years, we're like 50. So,
exactly.
We've got to look after these old bodies.
That's exactly. I call it in dog years. Like dancers are dog years.
Yep.
So now there was a while where I was chasing an Iron X and I was like, oh, I want to do a Phoenix and learn all these things. Now I'm happy to keep my ass on the floor. Like I still like a butterfly into like a leg hang. Like that will always be with me. I'm always going to have my moves that no matter what, I don't want to lose.
Yep.
And I'll still be able to do.
It's a classic. It's a crowd pleaser, You don't always have...
Exactly.
I think the audience is getting numb to these big tricks. If you do a knee hang, the crowd goes just as crazy for that than as doing a Phoenix. They don't even know the difference. Just stick with what you know. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. And this is what I tell students. I do another workshop about building your pole confidence. And this is so much of what I emphasize. Like it's just because you start a pole 3 weeks ago doesn't mean that you're not a pole dancer and that you don't have value yet to the sport. I did my first show after 6 classes.
Wow.
I didn't say I did it particularly well, but I did it.
You did it, yeah.
So, yeah. So in my mind, when people are like, oh, I'm not ready yet, I'm like, bitch, why not?
Like, you'll never be ready. You'll always find an excuse to talk yourself out of it. And I think when we compare ourselves to what we think we should be doing, you'll always put yourself down, but you're basically all ninjas, like hanging off the side of something horizontally. Like if you got someone out the street to walk into a pole class, they think we're all mad. Like, and people are getting frustrated because they can't hang by their foot yet. You're like, do you hear what you're saying? You're asking your body to do? Like you're doing pretty good already.
Exactly. And people are like, what can I do outside of pole to be better at pole? I said, do something that's the complete opposite in movements.
Balance yourself out.
You have to balance yourself out. And I tell people all the time, like, it's not what you do, it's how you execute it. I would much rather see 2 or 3 really strong elements in a performance than you try and pack in every trick you've ever learned in 3 minutes, and it's rushed and I don't have time to enjoy it. I just want to enjoy what you did. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. I love that advice. And I want to ask you just a couple more because I like to keep these short and sweet, so people can listen in. But I wanted to ask you, like, you have a really good social media following and you're really, really consistent on there. Is that something that you like try and cultivate, or is there a specific message you try and get across, or is it more just like a documentation of like your own journey, and then you just hashtag the shit out of it to encourage people to see what they need to see?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything you just said. I would say for every 1 hour of paid work, I've probably got about 8 to 10 hours of unpaid work that goes into getting it. So if I'm not teaching, I'm glued to my laptop because I'm coming up with fresh content is a huge job. And doing social media right takes a ton of work, but it's worth it. And, I post different things on Instagram than I do on Facebook. And understanding your audience in each of those places is critical. And people are like, posting every day, that's so much. It is, but that's also why my engagement is pretty strong. And now I'm starting, 2-3 years ago, even more so than that, probably like 4 or 5 at this point, when I had like 200 followers, and I was posting stuff each day and I'd have like 6 or 7 likes, most of which were my mom. And, like that's all exciting and stuff, and that's cool. And I was like, I'm going to do this on the hopes that some days will turn to 600 or 700. And that's what happened. It wasn't a quick payoff by any means, but it did pay off.
Just being consistent.
Because with Instagram, for example, if I see a post or someone posted something, I don't automatically follow them just from that one post. I go back and look at their whole account and see what they're about. And, see things like, is this just one random fitness picture, or are there a lot of it going on? Or what's the focus of their account? And so I try and think about the things that I post, like someone from the outside looking in, like what might they say or think about me? Yeah. So I try and pretty much every day, usually it ends up being at least 5 days out of the week, posting just what I'm doing with my clients on Instagram or what I'm doing myself. And I found that speaks way louder than if I were to say just like, come take my class. Like, yes. Yep. You have to see that, but what are you going to do in class?
Show the value of your class, and then people can see that, and then they know what they're going to get, basically.
Nailed it. Exactly.
Nailed it. Fantastic. Well, that's awesome. I don't want to take up any more of your time because I'm already taking up quite a lot already. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your insight into it. I think it's really, really interesting, and it's fantastic what you're doing. Like, I love following you on Instagram. It's a great message to be spreading, and I think it's a really nice, positive side to the industry that should only get more and more popular. So.
Well, because of people like you and all the other people who like and comment and cheer me on, you are the reason why I have a career. So I always tell my students, this is a team effort. if I didn't have anybody else caring about what I did, I'd just be that crazy lady screaming to herself in a basement with a phone. So thank you, Miss Sarah Scott, for being the incredible leader that you are in the industry.
Well, bless you. Flattery will get you everywhere. Thank you for coming on. And I'm sure my listeners will absolutely love this one. I already can't wait to share it with them. This will be out on Friday, so only a couple of days to wait. So yeah,
Awesome.
I'll link because I put a blog out of the transcript on the website as well, and so I'll link all your social media, all the links to stuff. They can see all your workshop descriptions and stuff there. So we'll link you up so everyone can check you out if they haven't already. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Lovely.
You too. See you later.
Bye.
Boom.
Loved that interview. Roz is such an incredible personality, and her message deserves to be spread as far as possible. If you fancy reading back on this interview and checking out the links to things we've discussed, then head to the blog section on the Off the Pole website, and to keep up to date with the latest episodes, you can subscribe on iTunes.